Now moving on to our neurodiagnostic ABR. So in a previous video, I talked about pi. We have to select our protocol, and then our intensity, and then our ear to get started. So for our neurodiagnostic ABR on the Interacoustics Eclipse system, we're going to click US Adult Click. For us, it's at the very top of the list. And then we're going to click 80 dB down this. So these are going to be your different intensities. If you're running a threshold ABR or other tests that need different intensities, you can select accordingly. And we're going to start in the right ear. So let's go ahead and start a recording. I'm going to hit start and kind of talk about the system as this runs. So we'll see that it pops up on the right side of the system here. I also see the click rate off to the right. So over here on the right, I see that this is an 11.1 alternating click rate. And then on the left side of the waveform, I see the intensity. So I call this a handle here. So it gives you information about the waveform. This is an 80 dB intensity for the right ear. And so this is the waveform we're looking at. I can adjust how large or small they are by clicking this little icon on the top left. And then if I go all the way to the bottom right, I can change my epoch or my timing to be longer or shorter as needed. So I don't usually mess with this a whole lot for this waveform or for this type of testing, but you have those options if you need to adjust. So the next thing to note is once I'm really happy with my waveforms, and there's a few ways to check for that, we can go on to the next one. So let me go ahead and go on to the next one. I'm going to go back and click my intensity. The protocol is already selected, and I'm going to stay on the same ear. You have two choices. We can either stop the recording and then start a new one, or what I really like is to click next intensity. So as long as everything's selected, it will immediately launch into the next one. And you can also switch between ears. So you would just switch to left, select your intensity on this left toolbar over here, and then we're able to adjust. So let's look at some parameters here. At the top of the screen, this is your FMP graph. This is where it's going to give you the confidence that the waves are actually where we think they are. And so we want this to be higher than 99%. So it's going to get above a 3.1 or 2 up here. We'll see it in just a second. And this section up here in the top left will turn green once we've reached that level. On the right side over here, we're seeing our noise level. Now we have it set to being below 50 nanovolts. And so ideally we are lower than that, but we can see what the level is up here. As we move across the FMP graph, we see the red line. That's the signal that we care about and that we're measuring. And then this black line is going to be the noise, the patient noise, myogenic noise, electrical noise, anything like that. We obviously want to see these cross over and have a good clear signal, which is the red here, way higher than the noise level. And we're seeing that drop in this particular waveform here, which is really nice. So we're seeing that drop down. We also see that as we were running, this has checked. Our FMP is quite high here, so we're in very good shape. This is a very good waveform, accurate, and it's measuring what it's supposed to measure, and so we would just have to go back in and label those. Up here is the last thing I want to show on this little toolbar is how many sweeps we've recorded. So we see that here, but if I go all the way to the left in my little status bar over here, I also see how many are recorded. So you can see the number of sweeps we have and how many are rejected. The last thing to note about this is this waveform reproducibility here. I want this to be pretty high, ideally higher than 75%. This comes from this little black line that sits under at the very bottom. And so it's how reproducible the waves are in this little time window here. I can click it and expand it, so I can make this over more milliseconds. I usually try to keep it within 1 millisecond, and again our goal is to look at wave 5 for ABRs, or regardless of what kind of ABR we're looking at. Or I can also shrink it, so if I really want to look at it in a shorter, like a half a millisecond frame, I can do that as well. But as I adjust that, we're seeing this waveform reproducibility change over here. So this is the part 1 for our neurodiagnostic ABR. I'm going to go ahead and stop and start another video to discuss some other elements for the left ear.